Okay, here's another example of a scatter plot. Notice how we're given a table. We have a graph down below, and we have to be able to see if there's some sort of correlation. Again, positive, negative, or no correlation. So, now notice also what's unique here. Look down here at the graph. You'll see the squiggly down here, okay? And that's a way to represent, so notice how, and the height starts at 0 and we go up by hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Now, the squiggly, here's what that means. That means we don't have to start at 0, where if we look at all the lines here that have no numbers, if I were to put 0 here at the very end, here, let me do it again. 0's here, this would be 1, 2, 3. What the squiggly means is that I could start at another number. So, instead of starting at 0, I can start at 60. And then go 60, 70, 80, 90. And that's all because that squiggly tells me, or reminds the person that's looking at this graph, that I'm not starting at 0, but I'm going to cut off a part of the graph and start at 60, and then go by tens from there. So that's what the squiggly means, all right? So now that we know that, let's go ahead and look at the graph here. So, again, stories, our first column is going to be X, and the height in meters is going to be Y. Notice how the y-axis is already labeled for me. But for the x-axis, again, all I have is stories on the bottom, but I don't know the numbers. So notice how stories starts at 60 down here. Starts at 60 down here, and then works its way up to 110. Okay? So why start at 0 and count by tens when we could start at 60 right here? So we'll say this is 60, and we'll say 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. So we could do that because of this squiggly line down there on the bottom. And it tells the people that, oh, I'm actually starting at 60 and then moving on from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to my ordered pairs here. So remember our ordered pairs, it's x comma y, just like a regular ordered pair. So it would be 110, comma 442. If I were to keep going, this would be 102, comma 381, so on and so forth. But we won't go through that. We'll just go ahead and start plotting right now. Okay. So 110, 442. So 110 is right here. 442 is right about there. Again, we don't have to be super exact when we graph because we have a table with the exact numbers. The graph is just showing a loose relationship to what's going on here. All right. The next point is 102, comma 381. So 381 would be about here. And 102 would be right about here. Okay. All right, the next point, 55 and 312. So 55 would be about here. Oh, we didn't do our graph correctly. That's all right. So 55 and then 312 be about here. So again, notice how it's not exact. I could have been a little bit more careful, but we're still going to get the rough idea of what's going on here. All right, so the library tower is 75 stories high, 310 meters tall. Okay, so 75 would be about here, and then 310 is just above 300, so right here. Okay, the Key Tower in Cleveland, 57 stories high, 290 stories tall. Okay, so 57. Again, that's off my graph. I should have done a little bit better. We'll work with it. 290 is right about here. Okay. The Columbia Seafirst Center in Seattle, 76 stories, 287 meters tall. Okay. So 76 and 287, right into 300. Okay. We have the Nations Bank Plaza in Dallas, 72 stories tall, 281 meters tall. Okay. So 72 would be about here, and 281 would be about here. Okay. And then the Nations Bank Corporate Center in Charlotte, 60 stories and 265 meters tall. So 60 stories, so right there on the line, and 265 meters tall. So right about there. Okay, so now we have all of our points there. Again, let's take a look here. Going left to right, do I see a trend? Now, again, it doesn't have to be super exact, but is there some sort of trend as I see the graph going left to right? It looks like that as I have more stories on a building, the taller the building is. Do you see that positive line? If I were to draw a line that kind of goes through all the points, it looks something like that. Something like that. Notice how the line is going increasing or going upwards. Okay, so the correlation in this would be a positive correlation. Okay, but the important thing to mention here is the squiggly. That means that I don't have to start at 0. That means I can start somewhere else then 0 and work my way from there. So that is another example of a scatter plot.